What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome to the playoffs for the NCPL. This week we're going up against James, coach of New England Nihilegos. Should be a pretty familiar opponent, given he was my last opponent of the regular season. Actually, in, I believe, the SFL and the first season of the NCPL that I participated in, this exact same thing happened where I played in the first round of the playoffs, my last opponent of the regular season. It's pretty funny. It's an interesting dynamic, that's for sure. Regardless, let's get into this team builder. I will say I'm feeling more motivated. I have put a lot more thought, a lot more weight on this particular battle, and I've come up with a bit of a strategy. James has a really good team. I went over it the last time you guys heard from me, so I'm not going to get too far in depth into it, but you can take a look at his team now. He's got, Tapu Koko, Volcanion, Landorus Eye, Mega Aggron, Como, Decidueye. Some things to point out, I guess, per se, because I've gone over all these Pokemon before, is he's got a lot of offense. He's got a lot of offense, both slow, bulky offense, some really fast offense. He's got access to Landorus Eye. He's got access to Tapu Koko, which are both huge offensive threats. But Volcanion is bulkier, slower, but so offensively present. Mega Aggron, it's super bulky, but it also has a base 140 attack stat, so it's certainly no slouch on that end. Como can run mixed special attack or physical attack. It's got decent bulk to boast as well. Decidueye can boost up, it can trap, it can be bulky. It's his only form of hazard recovery, well, at least reliable. I think Archeops might get defogged, but outside of that, it's pretty much Decidueye. So yeah, it's definitely a bit of a linchpin, I think. I was really surprised last time I played him that he didn't bring any grass types. So I think after watching our battle the first time, I think he's going to bring one of them, arguably Decidueye, if I had to guess, because of its ability to set up on things. So yeah, Alolan Muck, very scary. It's got a really good knockoff. It's a really great knockoff user, in my opinion. That's what makes it great. Mesprit is not that great. I'm still going to maintain it. It is slightly threatening, though, given its stat distribution and its versatile move pool. Archeops is definitely a threat. It actually posed quite a bit of a threat last game, so I'm going to want to watch out, and I did prep accordingly. Tauros is always one of those low-tier powerhouses, I think. It's not like a powerhouse, obviously, like an OU that just, sheer damage, but it is able to 2KO most of the things it goes against, so definitely a threat. Piloswine, something he's really enjoyed using lately. I was surprised he brought it last time. He might bring it again. We shall see. Lilligant, again, a Pokemon he didn't bring. I wouldn't be surprised if he brought it this time around, though. Arbok and Pidgeot, I still don't anticipate them. They're not really that great, to be honest, in my opinion. And yeah, some notable differences I think that he might have is he might not bring as many ground types. He might bring more grass types. He might not bring as many offensive mons. I don't know. I think he might bring Decidueye for defog in particular. I will say that going into this match, or going into the match last week, I didn't have my ideal strat, I would say. I really kind of threw together a team that I think would do pretty well overall, and I think I played really well with it overall, and that's what led to my victory. But I do think there is a better team I could have brought, and I think I'm bringing that team this particular week. I would also like to say, too, that I think James has one of the better teams in the league. It's a little bit lacking on the defensive side, in my opinion, mostly from a hazard standpoint and reliable recovery. Two things that I think are really missing on his team is, hazard removal and reliable recovery. Mesprit, Alolan Muck, look at all of his Pokemon. He's got Roost on Decidueye, he's got Roost on Archeops, and maybe Synthesis on Lilligant if he wants to go for it. Roost on Pidgeot. Overall, I guess Roost on Koko too, but that's kind of like a waste of a move in my opinion. So he doesn't really have access to a lot of great recovery. His Pokemon are very susceptible to getting whittled down over time. So this particular team that I've created this week is going to try and take advantage of only one hazard removal user and a lack of reliable recovery and a lack of bulk. So with that being said, let's hop into our team. So the team this week, we have, starting off is your waifu, Garbodor, one of the Pokemon I wanted to bring last time, but didn't end up doing so because I wasn't 100% sure, and now I definitely want to do, I want to bring a Garbodor that's physically defensive. If you'll note, he definitely has some physically offensive users, Mega Aggron, Como, Decidueye, Muck, Archeops, Tauros, that all don't want to take Rocky Helmet damage and aren't doing a ton to Garbodor. I'd also like to say that this is here for potentially U-turns on Landorus Eye or Tapu Koko, and it's there because it also beats his one defogger, Decidueye. And also on the special side, I don't have to invest at all in special defense, but I take like a +3 or 4 Giga Drain from Lilligant, so I help take that on as well. And yeah, again, like I was saying, is he has a couple poison types that are grounded, so he might not have been too afraid of T-Spikes, but I think T-Spikes are so good against his team. A lot of his team is grounded, and are Pokemon that I want to whittle away. Some of the Pokemon I have the most difficult time dealing with are Tapu Koko and Volcanion, both of which are susceptible to T-Spikes, and because my team is bulkier and can do so, I'm going to try to extend the length of the match as I set up T-Spikes early, let things take poison damage, use Protect to whittle away at things over time, put things in range of other Pokemon a lot more effectively. I found that last match, I was really trying to get rid of at least one or two Pokemon on his team. It was usually there was one Mon left that prevented a sweep from one other Pokemon, and I think the key to that was getting hazards up. I feel like the more hazards I have, the less difficulty I'll have with tearing down some of the walls on his team, like Mega Aggron, potentially, what's it called? Tapu Koko from a typing standpoint, like, you know, Outrage with Garchomp and all. So I do think Toxic Spikes are going to be incredibly helpful. I am running Gunk Shot because it OHKOs Tapu Koko. It does a lot of damage to almost everything it hits, but I also don't really need too much of an offensive presence. If anything, I mean, Garbodor, if it has a free turn, it's going to be going for Spikes or a T-Spike to get that hazard damage, which is going to be a lot more important throughout the match. I also have Infestation. Might be a little bit of a strange choice to some, but I fully anticipate Aggron to come in on Garbodor, and really just about anything that wants to come in, I can safely go for Infestation, knowing that I'll be doing some residual damage at the end of each turn, and that I force him to stay in that next turn. He can't pull a double, and momentum is going to be huge in this particular game. As I force switches with hazards, it's going to be very much a chip away at all of his mons over time and take advantage of him not having reliable recovery. So Infestation, allowing me to safely switch in Pokemon like Suicune or Bronzong on particular mons while doing a little bit of chip, especially forcing them in if they already have poison on them, is going to be really important because they'll take Infestation damage plus poison damage, and they'll be forced to stay in again and take another turn of poison damage. And if there are other hazards up too, that's going to start building up real fast. So Infestation is there, and that's really the mentality. I mean, Garbodor in and of itself is a Pokemon that really just thrives on getting chip on other Pokemon by coming in on a physical hit. Whether it's a KOing hit or something it tanks, it's, you know, Rocky Helmet damage is 16%, 25% from Aftermath. I think it can put in a lot of work. It's going to be a little bit difficult getting Garbodor safely into the match, but I definitely think it could be incredibly helpful against him. Next up is Suicune. Suicune, we have an interesting mix between Roarcoon and Procoon. It's almost max defense. It's got 32 special defense, which actually allows it to take just under 25% from Scarf Volcanion, Steam Eruptions, and Fire Blast, which means I can sub up on it, I can protect, I can stall it out of its Steam Eruptions and its Fire Blast, potentially even its Sludge Bombs, Earth Powers, and I take those decently well too. I don't have Calm Mind. He doesn't know if I have Calm Mind or not, but if I do have Calm Mind, I beat that 1v1 very easily. I can take on Specs with Sub and Protect, so there's always that too. Scald is there for general damage on just about anything, just get a little bit of chip, but more importantly, I'm going to want to be using a lot of Protect to get my leftovers back, and because T-Spikes are up, if things are poison, Protect gives me another, not only a turn to heal with lefties, but a turn for them to lose HP because of poison. I can also Roar. I plan on, you know, hazard stacking, so as many hazards are up, if many hazards are up, I can shuffle things around, force them to take that chip damage. Also, Garbodor and Suicune have a lot of great synergy because they both beat, well, one of them does some damage to Aggron and can force Aggron to stay in as I safely bring in Suicune, and then put him in a 50-50 situation where I can either Roar or I can Scald what's in front of me, and he's forced to either stay and try to get a little bit of damage anticipating my Roar, or switch out, and then if I Roar, I switch him out again and shuffle and get even more hazard damage. So this Suicune, I think, actually gives him quite a bit of difficulty. That said, Suicune has a lot of defensive pressure pinned on it this week, so a lot of the team's also built around giving Suicune a little bit of defensive assistance because it can get whittled away, and I definitely don't want it to get too weak this match because it can play a huge role building up hazard damage on especially stuff like Volcanion, which we'll probably want to switch in, might end up taking rocks, getting poisoned, and then getting roared out again. If it comes back in, it's going to take another rocks and potentially even a spike, you know, and poison and all that, and Protect will allow me to rack up even more poison damage. Protect is really important for choice items too. It's, you know, it enables me to scout quite a bit, and yeah, that's kind of the mentality behind Suicune here. Next up is Scarf Chomp. It is the same Scarf Chomp from last week. I really like this particular set. I guess the EVs are slightly different. I EV'd it so it's 1 point faster than a max speed Landorus I, and the rest went into HP, max attack. Oh wait, whew. I have Earth Power here. That is not what I wanted. I want Earthquake on my Garchomp. Thank you very much. That would have been bad. Okay, so yeah, max attack, Earthquake, Outrage, Poison Jab, Rock Slide. Really, Earthquake and Outrage are the only things I'm going to be considering. Outrage is great as soon as Koko and Aggron are gone / weakened. Earthquake is also great as long as he has, Levitate users. If Garchomp comes in, it really puts him in a 50-50 situation as to what to expect. I can always play safe, especially given I have hazards up, and I'm okay with things getting chip damage if he makes the, the correct 50-50 play. At least something comes in and takes hazard damage, and I'm fine with that. Garchomp, he doesn't have any Dragon Resists outside of, Koko and Aggron, so once those two are gone, if he does bring those, it's going to be a pretty clear way for Garchomp to win. Poison Jab is there just in case I don't want to go for Outrage against Lilligant and want to do about the same amount of damage, and this way I outspeed Lilligant to +1, which is really important. I outspeed all the Scarfers on his team except for Koko. Rock Slide is there in case I need flinches. Hopefully don't have to rely on that, but yeah, that's the mentality behind Garchomp this week. It was really important last week. Hopefully we'll be able to chip away at Aggron a little bit better so that we can start to, Earthquake sweep a little bit earlier. Next up is Tangrowth. Max Bedef, Assault Vest. I didn't get to use Tangrowth at all last week. That said, I do think it plays an important role in this particular matchup because of Tapu Koko, because of his special attackers. I needed this to support Suicune, to at least put Volcanion in situations where it has to guess between Fire Blast, Steam Eruption, potentially Sludge Bomb, potentially Earth Power, potentially Bloom Doom, and it allows me to help scout what kind of a Volcanion he has, which is honestly one of the scariest Pokemon for my team to deal with. So Tangrowth is really helpful for dealing with Tapu Koko as well, which is a huge threat to my team. I take Thunderbolts for days, I even take Brave Birds, I take Dazzling Gleams. I do quite a bit back with Earthquake or Sludge Bomb, depending on what I want to go for. Giga Drain is helpful for getting back recovery, and I've just got a lot of Spadef to, tank hits, and I don't really need a lot of physical defense to help out Suicune on the physically defensive side for hits from stuff like Landorus Eye potentially, or even Como or Decidueye. So yeah, that's the plan. HP Ice is there to potentially get a knockout on Landorus Eye, or what else was it? Lilligant? Not even Lilligant because Sludge Bomb does more. There's potentially Como as well. Yeah, that was the other idea. Oh, something by the way, Como, I need to watch out for Roar with Suicune because it won't affect soundproof Como. So I definitely need to keep a mental note of that. I am considering throwing Knockoff on this. We'll see though. So yeah, next up is Mega Scizor. We're rocking a really interesting spread this week. We've got BP, U-Turn, SD, and Protect, which is slightly different than everything else. We are running a very, in my opinion, offensive Scizor with an interesting set. U-Turn is there because we're running just enough speed to, after we've Mega Evolved, outspeed a max speed Aggron and Muck. If he does decide to bring those offensively, Muck can run Flamethrower, Fire Blast, and Aggron can run Fire Punch, both of which are a threat, so I want to outspeed that and be able to U-turn safely out of there if I needed to. Bullet Punch does around 35 to 40 to most of the things on his team, and that means at +2, I'm OHKOing most things after a decent amount of chip, which, again, my team is really built around getting. So this thing can be a late game sweeper. Why the interesting HP and Spadef spreads? That's specifically so that I can set up on things. I actually live a Hidden Power Fire from Life Orb Lilligant, and I live a modest Life Orb Thunderbolt in Electric Terrain from Tapu Koko from full, which means I'm not going to be bringing a Scizor in on a lot of things. I'm not going to be using it as a defensive pivot. I'm going to be using it as a one-time come in on something, live a hit, and SD, and then knock something out and get a ton of damage off on something, or potentially even sweep. Protect is there because, like I said, I'm planning on getting a lot of poison on things, and some of the things that might come in on me are going to be poisoned, and Protect will potentially put them in Bullet Punch range, +2 Bullet Punch range, will force them to take that little bit of extra damage. It also allows me to scout to see if things have Hidden Power Fire. One of the things that my team has had a lot of difficulty with this entire season is trying to determine, do they have Hidden Power Fire, do they have Hidden Power Ice, because both, my team is really weak to both those types, and a lot of mons don't have the option to run a Fire move and an Ice move, and are forced to choose one of the hidden powers. So I can kind of see what his potential mons are running from a Fire standpoint against Scizor, and then put him in a bit of a 50-50. Am I going to double predicting or knowing that he has a Fire move, or am I going to stay in? And every time he gets a 50-50 wrong, he at the very least takes an extra turn of poison damage, or is forced to switch and take hazard damage again. And so on average, I think I will win that chip game, which is, and the end game, the win condition. And so then lastly, we have Bronzong. We are running a max physically defensive Levitate Bronzong this time. It's the exact same moveset. I want to get up rocks for sure, and he has some Levitate mons, some mons that are immune to toxic spikes and spikes. So I definitely want to be sure to hit those with rocks, and if they are in against me, I do want to go for toxic against them, get them poisoned as well, because the more things that are poisoned, the better. Gyro Ball is going to be doing a lot of damage to anything that's offensive. Scarfed outspeeds me, and what doesn't take a lot from that is going to be Earthquaked or Toxic, so I feel like I cover my bases pretty well. I don't take much at all from a lot of his physical attackers, and from his special attackers, I live a Dazzling Gleam into Thunderbolt. I didn't plan on taking Thunderbolt twice anyway, so it didn't make sense to really be super specially defensive. I was considering running Spadef to help out with Volcanion, but this Bronzong actually helps out with Volcanion in its own way. If it is choice locked, if it is running Sludge Bomb, Bloom Doom, or Earth Power, I can use this Bronzong to scout for it. I can put him in a 50-50 situation. He is going to have to be conscious of his PP with, you know, a couple mons that have Protect with Pressure Suicune and such, and I can play around with that, especially if he's poisoned. Each turn that he does get something wrong, he's going to be taking 12% for it. So definitely want to keep that in mind. Also, because we are max physically defensive, we actually take the same amount of damage from Aggron's Fire Punch as if we were max Spadef and Heat Proof. So it'll be an interesting game to try to mess with his information to keep him from determining what kind of a Bronzong I am, physically defensive, specially defensive, or Levitate, or Heat Proof. Because I was Heat Proof last time. I know he watched the video, so he might be prepping for that. He might play around with that. And every single time I force him to go to Earthquake or go for Earthquake on, for example, Garbodor or something like that, I can always end up going into potentially Bronzong and potentially go into Suicune. He has to play around with that, which move is going to be the best. And if he is a Pokemon, if he lets me get a free switch, I potentially get leftovers, I potentially stall him out of moves, I potentially roar him, and potentially get, you know, rack up poison, I potentially force him to take more hazard damage with switches, and again, lack of reliable recovery, it's going to add up over time. So that's kind of the game plan. Late game win cons could potentially be Scarf Chomp or SD Scizor. I think outside of that, it's going to be a lot of getting chip on things with either Suicune, you know, phasing around, scald damage, chip by, I don't know, tanking hits as Garbodor, or, you know, sacking Garbodor to get chip on something like Aggron, you know, Earthquake, Gyro Ball, Toxic, Stealth Rock. All my team is built around really taking hits pretty well, forcing switches, so it should be a good game. I'm really hoping to play my best. I'm going to try my best. I feel pretty good about this team, as scared as I am of James' team. I do think that after watching our battle last time, he's going to want to play a little bit more aggressively, because he was thinking about making plays last time and overall it didn't work out. So I do think he's going to try and play maybe a little bit more aggressively, which is why I think Protect on both Scizor and Suicune will be really effective. And then I think that my sort of slow and steady chip, you know, more consistent style of or game plan this week is going to pay off. So either way, I hope you guys are cheering for me if we win this. We make it to the championship, so I'm going to do my best, and I hope you guys support me. But until the match, this is Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.